Hello, Billy Rainford here. It is now time to talk about the 450 class from the Canadian Triple Crown Series MX Nationals at Sandalye. This is 450 recap chat. 2, 3, 4. All right, hey, yeah, let's talk about some things. If you were able to watch it on the Flow Sports app, then you saw some of the front runners. What happened up there? There was some amazing racing. The weather was perfect. The track was great. They did have some issues with some equipment, so it wasn't tilled as deep, so it got a little slicker than maybe we've seen it in the past, but it did make for some great racing. So let's take a look at some of the things that I noticed, some of the things that maybe weren't shown on the broadcast that you wouldn't see. So let's start off here in the 450 class. Right off the bat here, I want to talk about number 708, Jay Burke. Jay Burke there, saw him in the first moto coming around. All of a sudden he was riding off the track early in the moto. It looked to me like he was favoring his left arm. He was just kind of holding it strangely. Turns out it was his right foot. So left arm, right foot, I was close. But yeah, so he was hurt. He's pretty badly swollen up, says he'll be back. But Jay, hope you're feeling all right, and hopefully we see you back as soon as possible. Moving up a little bit here. Brett Young and TJ Martin. It was cool to see those guys made the drive all the way out to Ottawa from Lawrencetown, which is a surf place just outside of Halifax, and TJ Martin there from Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. So cool to see those guys made it out. They went 23 and 25 overall, but cool to see guys making the trip and the effort to do the races. Let's move up here. Number 55, 16th place, Max Philippek ended up down in turn 1. He was dead last to start that one. Actually, that crash because it took out, Dylan Wright was down. Looked like he came in hot on the inside. Parker Eels was down with him. Keelan Meston was down, Dylan and Max Philippek. So Philippek dead last, 17-15 for 16th overall. So congratulations to him for getting up and just charging there. 14th place, Tyler Medaglia, obviously not where he belongs. First moto, he had a nice battle there with number 3, Sean Moffinberger there. He ended up 5th in that one. In the second one, he got a great start. He was running second, looking strong, looked like he was able to hold it. In his words, he said he felt confident that maybe late in the moto he could even make a press heading after number 15, Jess Pettis, who was out front. Unfortunately, after he came by the mechanics area, just rolled right off the track and couldn't go again. Turns out it was a fuel pump went on him, so too bad. Just fortunate that it didn't happen on one of the bigger jumps there and stuff like that. So too bad for him. So he scored as a 5:27 for 14th overall. Hopefully we see more of Tyler Medaglia here as we move forward. 13th, a shout out to Derek Hamm, number 53 out there. Boy, I mean, he's out there battling away. He said he had some troubles with the bike during the week, and then Go for Dunes guys gave him some parts, so he was able to actually race. 13 for that 13th place overall. Man, number 53 out there, Derek Hamm. Good for you, buddy. It says he's going after a top 10 finish, so watch for that in the future here. Finishing just ahead of him, Anthony Spadaccini there, the number 66. He, with all the carnage that happened there in that second moto, he was actually up in, what was happening? I think he was up at 4th place there early in that second moto. So he went 14-12, just behind that next group up there. I mean, we're going to talk about that group here in a second, but Anthony Spadaccini 12th overall, so a good race for him. Ahead of him, now there's this group of guys, Yannick Boucher, Ryan Derry, Parker Eels, Keelan Meston, and Liam O'Farrell. Sometimes they battle each other, other times they end up all alone. In this one, they ended up all alone in the first moto, each of them. And I kind of talk about these guys, and I think they could start last, and they would end up in those positions. So I mean, there are some pretty big gaps. They've got everybody else covered behind them, but ahead of them, they got kind of that next little step to get up to that next group there. And the same kind of thing goes for the 5 or 6 guys ahead of them. So anyway, just quickly talk about Yannick Boucher. He went 11-11 for 11th. I feel like Yannick just keeps getting faster each week. He's looking more and more comfortable. And when I say aggressive, I don't mean he's out there kicking people and stuff. I just mean braking later, getting on the gas sooner, just hitting corners harder. And so just good to see what I'm seeing out of him, the improvements. So yeah, 11-11 for him. Ryan Derry, let's talk about him, number 26. It was his first ride. He was replacing the injured Logan Leitzel on that SSR Trolley Designs Gas team. Had his best ever, his first ever top 10 overall in motocross. So he went 12-10 for that 10th overall. So really good to see him. It'd be interesting to see what he can do now that he's had a bit more time on the bike, and he's got the week off coming up here before we go to Deschambault. So good riding from him. Number 31, again, like I say, Parker Eels. He ended up all alone in that first one. He was down, well, almost dead last basically in that second one. Came back up all the way to 9th. So he went from down in the first all the way up to 9th place. So great ride from him. Ended up alone again. Like I say, he's one of those guys that just to tick off those guys ahead, but he's got everybody behind him covered. 8th place, Keelan Meston. He ended up again, like I say, alone. He was up in 2nd place off the start in the first one there, so a great great start from him. He went 8-8, but again, like I say, he went from last up to, he got up a little bit quicker than those other guys. He could kind of spun around in the first turn. He made it up to 8th place, so 8-8 for 8th overall for Keelan Meston. Now I know he wants to be up there battling with the guys in that next little group, so hopefully we can see if he can make some progress in this the week off heading into Deschambault there. So ahead of him, Liam O'Farrell again ran alone, 9-6, like such a solid ride. 6th place for Liam O'Farrell. I mean, the guy works full-time during the week, heads over to the races. He ended up 7th overall, so really nice strong ride from him. Finishing ahead of him in 6th place, going 7-7, was Tim Trombley. Now Tim was up there in the battle, and you know, just kind of in the second one kind of started sliding a bit, but I talked to him afterwards and he could barely breathe. He's got some intercostal muscles between the ribs, just sharp pain. So he is just going through some stuff that's so painful it's making him wince while he's out there. So the fact that he could stay up in there and do that, I mean, he was up in 4th place there for a while in the first moto. So good for him. You probably saw in the highlights too, in the broadcast there, that he actually almost went over the bars. Probably landed on the chest there too. That didn't help. So good for him, finishing 6th. Sean Moffinberger ended up 5th place. You know, I spent a lot of time up pestering Dave Bell up there in his announcing tower, because he can see pretty much the entire track. But I looked on his announcing sheets and they've got Sean listed as 36 years old. So I haven't heard Dave say that yet, but it's kind of funny that I looked and saw that. Saw that he's listed as 36. Sean went off the track. He had some troubles. He was up in 2nd place, dropped back to 5th, and ended up 6th in that one. He was held up in that first turn mess in the second moto, but got away pretty quickly. So he ended up 6-5 for 5th overall. Now again, I know he wants to be up there battling for podiums, and we'll see. We've got a couple places to go still, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him land on the podium. So that's Sean Moffinberger. 4th place, Cole Thompson, 4-4. Very solid there again, just off the podium, just a touch off those guys ahead of him. Of course, he wants to be up there going for wins and certainly for podiums. Looks smooth as ever, but yeah, 4th place for Cole Thompson there, 4-4. Finishing 3rd, Marshall Welton went 3-3. He was down on lap 1. He was way back in 13th place, battled up to 3rd spot. And now I can't talk about him without talking about the next rider who finished 2nd, going 1-2. He was Dylan Wright I'm talking about here. He was way back off the start, caught everybody and made the pass on Jess Pettis out front to go 1-2. Now I mentioned second moto he was down in that first start. I'd have to go to the video to kind of see what happened, but he was on the very inside gate and maybe kind of slid out around the first and took down a couple guys. Also, like I say, with the Marshall Welton Dylan Wright thing, they came up past the mechanics area and Dylan was taking that very inside line, and as you can see there's like a kind of a buildup on the inside there. So guys, I mean, you would hit it, you can't go to the right any farther, and you hit it, and you can see in the replay that Dylan hit that, it kind of straightened him up, and he kind of went in and pushed Marshall Welton off the track. Fortunately, they both stayed up. Marshall spun around and got going again. Now, Marshall was obviously upset about that. They had an incident at Gopher Dunes as well. But Dylan Wright said in his interview that Marshall was swerving and kind of trying to take out his front wheel. That's the way he felt. You know, it's like when you're racing, it's not always what it looks like from the outside. When you're in the heat of battle, that's what happens. So these guys are now having a bit of a history here now. So, but Dylan Wright able to come all the way back up to 1-2. Marshall Welton with 3-3. And taking another overall, we got Jess Pettis out front. Went 2-1, pulled that hole shot in the first one, ended up second. A little mad at himself that he said he had a little bit of arm pump and kind of went down when Dylan caught him and they went through Hell's Kitchen. Jess was on the inside. They kind of came through and Jess kind of fell down, held on to that second position, but there was a little bit of contact because he had like a hole shot and he had like 11-second lead there for a while. And then he came back, hole shot the second one. Dylan Wright was down the first one, wasn't able to come all the way back. And took the win. So congratulations to Jess Pettis. Looks like he belongs at the front. He's comfortable. I think all the guys too in their interviews, they kind of alluded to the fact that you know, Dylan Wright is probably the fastest rider on the track, but he's having some issues trying to come back up through. So I mean, all things equal, if they all had good starts, it'd be tough to see who's going to be able to beat Dylan Wright. But Jess Pettis, man, he's looking solid. I know he's hanging out in Bromont, Quebec there. He's going to work out all next week and a half and be ready to take this thing home. So good for him taking the win, the 2-1 win there for Jess Pettis. So in the points here right now, it's tight. Dylan Wright has the points lead by 1 over Jess Pettis. These two have kind of separated themselves now. Marshall Welton now finds himself 24 points back in third place. Cole Thompson is 38 back in fourth, and number 3, Sean Moffinberger, is now back 72 points out. So, I mean, there's obviously some big gaps, but anything can happen. So we'll have to see what happens there. But like I was saying about that group there, from 6 to 12, 6 to 11 there, I think the guys from 5 to 1 could start last and end up, you know what I mean? There's just such a big gap, and watching these guys go through lappers, boy, they're going by such different speeds that that part itself is dangerous, you know what I mean? So lappers are an issue. You got to watch out. Obviously, it's not there in their battles too. It's just the speed discrepancies are so big that that's interesting there for sure. So like I say, we've got a week off. There is that money race at SMX, so we'll see if anybody shows up for that. Some of the locals are going to be not too thrilled that all these hot shots might show up, but good luck to that. It's the ECAN next week as well. This weekend we are off, and then we're at Deschambault. It's interesting. It's a Sunday regular racing, and then we're gonna have one moto on the Monday following. So it's a bit different for Deschambault. But yeah, that's a little recap chat for the 450 class from Sandali. Thanks for watching, and hope you learned a couple things there that maybe you didn't get to see on the broadcast. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.